Hello, everyone, and welcome to the English podcast. Today, we will talk about being at the bus stop, a common situation that helps you practice everyday English, simple sentences, and questions you can ask when waiting for a bus. Talking about bus stops is very useful because it is part of daily life, and even beginners can describe what they see, what they do, and how they interact with others. A good way to start is to describe the bus stop itself. For example, the bus stop is near my house, or there is a small bus stop on my street. You can also add details. The bus stop has a bench where people can sit and a sign with the bus numbers. Short sentences like these are clear and easy for beginners to remember. Next, you can talk about what people do while waiting. For example, people wait for the bus, or some people sit on the bench. You can add more detail. Some people talk with friends, and some people look at their phones, or I wait at the bus stop every morning to go to school or work. These simple sentences describe actions and help you practice verbs like wait, sit, talk, and look. It is also helpful to describe the surroundings. For example, there are trees near the bus stop, or the street is busy with cars. You can add more detail. There is a small shop next to the bus stop, and sometimes I buy a snack there, or the bus stop is on a quiet street, and it is easy to see the bus coming. These sentences help practice vocabulary for places and objects around you. Another idea is to describe how you feel at the bus stop. For example, I feel happy when I see the bus coming, or I feel cold when it is winter. You can also add, I enjoy sitting on the bench and listening to music while waiting, or sometimes I feel tired because I wait a long time for the bus. Talking about feelings makes your sentences more personal and natural. Finally, describing a bus stop is a great way to practice daily life vocabulary, simple verbs, and time expressions. You can explain where it is, what happens there, who is waiting, and how you feel. By practicing this topic, you will be able to speak clearly about common situations in English and describe everyday experiences confidently. We will talk about how to read the bus schedule and understand bus numbers. This is very important because knowing the bus number and time helps you get to your destination on time. Talking about bus schedules is a great way to practice numbers, time expressions, and simple sentences in English. A good way to start is to describe how the bus numbers are displayed. For example, the bus number is on the front of the bus, or the bus stop sign shows the numbers of the buses that stop here. You can also add details. I look at the sign to see if my bus is coming, or the sign shows bus numbers and the times they arrive. These sentences help beginners practice vocabulary about transportation. Next, you can talk about reading the schedule. For example, I check the time the bus arrives, or the bus comes every 15 minutes. You can add more detail. I look at the schedule and see that the next bus comes at 8:30, or sometimes the bus is late and I have to wait a little longer. Simple sentences like these are practical for everyday conversations. It is also helpful to describe how to ask someone about the bus. For example, I ask a person, does this bus go to the city center? Or I ask, what time is the next bus? You can add more detail. Sometimes I ask the bus driver if I am not sure about the stop, or people are friendly and give information about the bus route. Using simple questions and polite sentences is important for beginners. Another idea is to describe how you feel when checking the schedule. For example, I feel calm when I know the bus is coming soon, or I feel a little worried if I am late. You can also add, I enjoy checking the schedule because it helps me plan my day, or I feel confident when I understand the bus times and numbers. Talking about feelings makes your sentences more natural and personal. Finally, reading the bus schedule and understanding bus numbers is a great way to practice numbers, time expressions, simple questions, and daily routine vocabulary. By describing what you do at the bus stop, you will feel confident talking about transportation in English. We will talk about interacting with people while waiting for the bus. The bus stop is a public place, so sometimes you meet neighbors, friends, or strangers. Talking about interactions helps you practice greetings, short conversations, and polite questions in English, which are very useful for everyday life. A simple way to start is to describe greeting people. For example, I say hello to my neighbors, or I say good morning to my friend at the bus stop. You can also add details. I smile and say hello because it is polite and friendly, or sometimes I meet the same people every day and we talk for a few minutes. Short greetings like these are easy for beginners to remember. Next, you can talk about small talk while waiting. For example, I ask, is the bus coming soon? Or I ask, do you take this bus every day? You can add more detail. We talk about the weather and the bus schedule while we wait, or sometimes people share information about traffic or delays. Simple questions and answers are useful for daily interactions and help beginners practice conversation. It is also helpful to describe being polite and friendly. For example, I say thank you if someone gives me information, or I smile when I talk to people at the bus stop. You can add, being polite makes the conversation nice and easy, or I feel happy when people are friendly and helpful. These sentences teach beginners important social expressions in English. Another idea is to describe observing other people. For example, I see people reading books or listening to music, or some people talk on the phone while waiting. You can also add, I watch the bus stop carefully and notice who is waiting, who is coming, and who is leaving. These sentences help practice verbs like see, watch, listen, and observe in daily contexts. Finally, interacting with people at the bus stop is a great way to practice greetings, questions, polite expressions, and daily routines. By describing what you say, ask, and notice, you can speak naturally about everyday situations in English. We will talk about noticing buses, getting ready to board, and paying the fare. This is an important part of being at the bus stop because it helps you catch the right bus on time. Talking about these actions helps you practice English verbs, simple sequences, and short daily routine sentences. A good way to start is to describe watching for the bus. For example, I look down the street to see the bus coming, or I check the bus number on the front of the bus. You can also add details. I watch carefully because I do not want to miss the bus, or sometimes the bus is far away and I wait patiently. Short sentences like these are easy to understand and useful for beginners. Next, you can talk about preparing to get on the bus. For example, I take my bag and hold it in my hand, or I move closer to the bus stop when I see the bus. You can add details. I make sure my backpack is ready, and I stand near the curb, or I check that I have my ticket or card to pay for the bus. Using simple verbs like take, hold, move, and check helps beginners describe actions clearly. It is also helpful to describe paying the fare. For example, I pay the bus driver with coins, or I use my bus card to pay. You can also add, I show my card to the driver and wait to hear the beep, or sometimes I ask the driver if I need the exact change. These sentences help practice polite interactions and vocabulary for money and tickets. Another idea is to describe finding a seat or standing. For example, I sit on the empty seat if there is one, or I stand near the door if the bus is full. You can also add details. I hold the handle while standing so I do not fall, or I enjoy sitting by the window and looking outside. Short sentences like these help beginners describe movement and actions on the bus. Finally, noticing buses, getting ready to board, and paying the fare is a great way to practice verbs, polite phrases, and daily routine vocabulary. By describing what you do step by step, you can speak clearly about taking public transportation in English. We will talk about interacting with passengers and finding your place on the bus. Once you board the bus, you often see other people, and knowing how to behave politely and find a good seat is important. Talking about this helps you practice greetings, simple sentences, and common English phrases used in public spaces. A good way to start is to describe greeting or acknowledging people. For example, I say hello to the person sitting next to me, or I smile at the other passengers. You can also add details. I greet my friend if I see someone I know, or I try to be polite and not disturb anyone while finding a seat. Short sentences like these are easy for beginners to remember and use. Next, you can talk about finding a seat. For example, I sit in an empty seat, or I stand near the door if there are no seats. You can also add details. I choose a seat near the window because I like to look outside, or I hold the rail while standing so I do not fall when the bus moves. These sentences help practice verbs like sit, stand, hold, and choose in everyday contexts. It is also helpful to describe small interactions on the bus. For example, I say, "Excuse me," if I need to pass someone, or I ask politely, "Is this seat free?" You can add details. People are usually friendly and say yes or smile, or I try to be quiet so others can rest or read. Using polite phrases helps beginners practice common social English in public places. Another idea is to describe observing passengers. For example, some people read books, or some people listen to music with headphones. You can add details. I like to watch people and notice what they do while traveling, or I sometimes talk to a friend about the things we see outside the window. Short sentences like these practice verbs like read, listen, watch, and talk. Finally, interacting with passengers and finding your place on the bus is a great way to practice polite phrases, verbs, and simple daily routine sentences. By describing your actions and observing others, you can speak clearly and confidently about traveling on public transport. We will talk about noticing your bus stop, preparing to get off, and saying goodbye if needed. This part of the journey is important because it helps you leave the bus safely and on time. Talking about this step helps you practice time expressions, verbs, and simple phrases used in daily routines. A good way to start is to describe watching for your stop. For example, I look at the signs to know when my stop is coming, or I listen to the bus driver or an announcement for my stop. You can also add details. I check every street and building carefully so I don't miss my stop, or sometimes I ask the passenger next to me, "Is this the next stop?" Short sentences like these are easy for beginners and very practical. Next, you can talk about preparing to get off the bus. For example, I stand near the door when my stop is close, or I take my bag and hold it in my hand. You can add details. I check that I have all my things and hold the strap of my backpack, or I move closer to the exit so I can get off safely. Using simple verbs like stand, take, hold, and move helps beginners describe actions clearly. It is also helpful to describe interacting politely while leaving the bus. For example, I say thank you to the bus driver, or I smile at people while I leave. You can also add, I try not to push anyone and wait my turn, or I greet my friends if they are on the bus with me. Simple phrases like these are useful in public places and teach polite behavior. Another idea is to describe your feelings as you get off. For example, I feel happy to reach my stop, or I feel excited to go home or meet friends. You can also add, I feel safe and comfortable because the bus ride was easy and smooth, or I enjoy seeing my neighborhood as I get off the bus. Talking about feelings makes your English personal and natural. Finally, noticing stops, preparing to get off, and saying goodbye is a great way to practice daily routine verbs, polite phrases, and time expressions. By describing what you do when leaving the bus, you can speak clearly about public transport experiences in English. We will talk about what you do after leaving the bus and walking to your destination. This part of the journey is important because it completes your trip and helps you describe your daily routine in English. Talking about walking from the bus stop helps beginners practice verbs, time expressions, directions, and short descriptive sentences. A good way to start is to describe leaving the bus stop area. For example, I walk down the street to my school, or I go home after getting off the bus. You can also add more detail. I walk on the sidewalk carefully and look both ways before crossing the street, or I see my friends waiting and walk to meet them. Using simple verbs like walk, go, see, and meet helps beginners describe daily actions clearly. Next, you can talk about noticing your surroundings. For example, I see trees and houses while walking, or I notice cars and people on the street. You can add details. I enjoy watching the small shops near my bus stop, or I see children playing and sometimes say hello to them. Short descriptive sentences like these help practice vocabulary for places, objects, and everyday life. It is also helpful to describe small actions during the walk. For example, I listen to music with my headphones, or I carry my backpack carefully. You can add details. Sometimes I stop to buy water from a small shop, or I check my phone to see messages from my friends while walking. These sentences help beginners describe multitasking in daily routines. Another idea is to talk about arriving at your destination. For example, I reach my school and go to my classroom, or I arrive home and put my bag on the chair. You can also add, I feel happy to finish my journey and sit down to rest, or I enjoy the feeling of being safe and comfortable after walking from the bus stop. Talking about feelings makes your sentences more personal and natural. Finally, describing what you do after leaving the bus and walking to your destination is a great way to practice verbs, directions, time expressions, and daily routine sentences. By explaining your actions step by step, you can speak clearly and confidently about traveling on public transport and completing your journey in English. This concludes our episode on At the Bus Stop. Practicing all the steps from waiting, reading the schedule, interacting with passengers, getting on the bus, noticing stops, and walking to your destination will help you describe daily routines and public transport experiences naturally in English.
Leave a comment under this video and one of you will get 40 English lessons for free.